And here can come to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. This is Spotlight Africa, brought to you on Sudan's descent into destruction unprecedented. Uganda arrests to help stop illegal migration. US calls for all these stories are all just ahead on Spotlight Africa. Do stay with us. Thanks for joining us. We begin Spotlight Africa with United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres at the start of an international humanitarian summit in Geneva, organized by the UN. The nation says it is appealed for $3 billion of funding this year, but that less than 17 military factions, several previous truce, have broken down. In a related development, the Sudanese army said the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) had fire was not being respected, and they had to abort an operation to transfer wounded soldiers. Had heard no airstrikes, artillery, or other fighting there. It would be poorly observed. Moving away from that, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni is now a veteran graduate of the war with the virus. Exercise and eat healthy African food. Meanwhile, Ugandan police say they have arrested Friday. The head teacher and school's director are among the detained. It would be recalled that 4 were burnt to death in their dormitory. Meanwhile, the Ugandan army is still hunting Allied Democratic Forces aidist. In a related development, Pope Francis has led prayers at the Vatican act shot and burned to death in the western town of Mumpuende. Meanwhile, the Utahns kidnapped 6 students before escaping across the border into the Democratic Kashishima, who had been on the run for 22 years. Grounds in South Africa. Reports say it could delay his possible extradition to Rwanda and crimes against humanity. He is accused of directly participating in the killings who were hiding in a Catholic church in western Rwanda. He was indicted in Tuesday, with his case being transferred to Rwanda for trial. Kashima now in. Away from that, France will offer Tunisia 25.8 million, said during a visit to Tunis today. The money will pay for a Commission president announced earlier this month to help Tunisia tackle busy boats have led to a terrible toll of drownings, as well as a big ink boat carrying hundreds of migrants from Libya to Greece. Under French military personnel were recently detained by Chadian forces near the uniformed men with French military insignia crouching on the arrested because they were illegally mining gold or spying 8 kilometers away from the border when they were stopped at a Chadian army checkpoint on the roads before the rainy season in Chad and were allowed to proceed once the BRICS summit scheduled to take place in South Africa in August. BRICS is an acronym for Group of Developed Nations who have been highly critical of China and Russia. Expected to visit Paris later this week to further discuss the French drawdown of the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali, known as MINUSMA, following must adhere to all its commitments. Notably, transferring Pandit expires next week of failing to respond to security is being accused of forcing her way into, and then said she had paid 10% of the $642,000 to occupy the house in the upmarket's current suburb, while she sought a mortgage to pay in Kiamu County. Said he had signed no such agreement to sell the deal, or that she paid the amount she alleges to have paid as deposits. Of these and more on Spotlight Africa, bringing you stories inside. Thanks for staying tuned. This is still Spotlight. Were reportedly killed and 20 security officers were injured in attacks in the Coastal Paramilitary General Service Unit GSU team, who were part of a joint force-sized explosive device. 12 of them were injured. Meanwhile, Kenya and the European Union have signed a trade deal which, once ratified, will give Kenya tariff increase exports and create more jobs in Kenya. The deal during an export of finished value-added products out of Kenya. Partnership Agreement EPA with EU Trade Commissioner Valdez. These are made up of mostly agricultural products, including vegetables, cut. Meanwhile, an EU statement noted that this was a balanced agreement as it elsewhere. Kenya's trade minister is being accused of intimidating one of the looked at how a state agency under the trade ministry reportedly sanctions can only be made for emergency relief goods, with the entire deal potentially leading to the loss of more than one advertising with the media. In renegotiating its debt repayment with foreign lenders. This is crucial, was aimed at helping the troubled economy. Ghana is hoping to restructure its Qatar gave indications that the country was in the process of clinging on dollars. Moving away from that, the jail sentence of a prominent Aishan El-Kadi was sentenced to 3 years in jail with 2 years suspended earlier this year, with 7 years with 5 to be served in prison. Now, according to reports, lawyers denied the charges, saying that the only foreign transfer of money came from his daughter. Ahmed Tinubu has forced out the country's security chiefs and replaced with new officers. Tinubu has also dissolved the boards of all federal government institutions 2 weeks after he met security chiefs and ordered them to work jointly with a rising wave of attacks blamed on jihadist groups and other criminal gangs, including bandits, for the security chiefs to be changed because of their inability to tackle the situation, to affirm its sovereignty, to be the sole masters of their destiny after marriage without delay. Burkina Faso government spokesman Rim Talba Jean Iman Burkina Faso had asked a small French force to leave its borders, feeling intercommunal tensions in an address to the UN Security Council of the spread of jihadist violence. Lastly, on Spotlight Africa, general election in Sierra Leone, which he reminded young people that they have the backup again. Meanwhile, Saturday's vote will be the country's 6th president. Sierra Leone People's Party (SLPP) go up against Dr. Sumura Kamara of the Women's come on the same day that the Commonwealth Observer Group in Sierra Leone, led by former Niger. And that's all we have for you at this time on Spotlight Africa. Do well to subscribe to Spotlight Africa live from Spectrum Television and Planet Radio. I am Uyai.